a soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is The Punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show.
All right, guys. So in case you don't know, we are an affiliate for Soldier Girl Coffee Company. I'm super excited about this because they have amazing coffee. And in future episodes, you will see us drinking Soldier Girl coffee. They also have a CBD coffee. So if you need some CBD, which helps support your health in a sense of relaxation, it helps with your sleep and your overall health on a day-to-day basis, then Soldier Girl Coffee has both that and the caffeine you need. So be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Go ahead and click that, shop around, and make sure you get yourself some Soldier Girl Coffee today. So before I so rudely interrupted you, you are the only person I've met who is...
I just prefer them. I just think they're... I don't think the...
So based off of what you said before, I could theoretically buy an electric forklift.
I think they're cheaper. I think in the long run, you spend less money maintaining them.
So
and you got to remember, you've got to pay for someone to come out and replace the propane tanks.
If I'm not taking it and getting it refilled and doing it myself.
Even then, you still have to pay.
Well, yeah, but
with a battery charger, you just plug it in at the end of the day. And a battery charge will last. I used to run... I didn't have a forklift for everybody who was employed. I would have like one or two at my old company that would sit usually and be on a charger. The rest would be used. Then those would go get plugged in, and then the night shift would use them. So they could run on a charge all day, like 24 hours. You pay for that cost up front. Over time, it pays for itself.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be able to get up that hill. And as we take on more product and increase our efficiency and our speed, I mean, right now, I told you that our top seller, we're looking at getting to 8,000 units per day.
Yeah,
that's with a machine that we're going to get.
I was selling 50,000 cases a night.
But with our current process, we're looking at approximately 700 units per person per day, which only comes to, I think, right around 21,000 or 2,100 per day.
No, I would do
manually. So what I'm getting at is, if a shipment is 2,000 units, then that's one shipment per day. If that's going out the door,
how many pallets are on a shipment?
It varies, but a 2,000 unit shipment, I think our last one was 5 pallets and this one was 6.
Dude, I would do 20. I would unload 25 trucks a day with 4 forklifts.
Well, you're also talking about 350,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah, but I would do this with 4 forklifts. And then at night, those forklifts would then turn around. Well, they wouldn't really be used because they were sit downs.
If I can go vertical, because I got a guy in Virginia Beach that does the pallet rack. So if I get that in there,
that shit's expensive.
I mean, from him, it's not that bad. I got it before. It was like
this all steel pallet racking.
Yeah, I think I got 3 sets of it for once again, you're talking about a large warehouse. I got 3
I'm going through a racking project in my current one. It's still going to cost. And we're reusing some of our cantilever racks. I mean, that thing's easily going to cost us and we're only buying a like small footprint of pallet racks, which is probably going to be, I think, 16 feet long, 14 feet long. I mean, that entire project's still probably going to cost us $25,000. Dude, it's solid steel. It's got to be bolted into the floor. I mean, it's And steel's expensive right now. I mean,
I got it before. I want to say I paid $2 or $3 grand for it.
You can get it used. I mean, yeah.
But I mean, it just depends. But my point is, if I can,
I'll tell you a sit down one that's going to go on and off a truck. If you're going to go, how high is your ceiling?
Not that fuck. If we did it, it would be for one level up. That's it.
Oh, so yeah, you would.
I want to say clearance might be 12 feet.
Yeah, you would be able to do a sit down or counterbalance. I would say counterbalances are better than sit downs. Stand up counterbalance.
I don't know what you're saying right now.
So there's
I just know pallet racking. I don't know.
So for forklifts.
Oh,
so
okay.
a sit down is so they're both technically counterbalanced. But a stand up counterbalance lift can go on and off a trailer, 53-foot trailer. So they can fit onto a truck. And then they can do everything a sit down does, only they're stand up. And honestly, I think bang for your buck, I think those are a lot better.
The sit down.
No, the counterbalances, the stand up counterbalance.
So the high lift.
No, it's not a high lift. It goes the same height as a sit down, but it's more cost effective, and you can actually fit into tighter places with it.
So my dad has said the same thing. I think the number one question I have of you is moving forward. We can do this a couple of different ways. Right now, we're running out of space. The advantage that I have is he's out of town and not having anything delivered this week. So I get to catch up, theoretically. Also, where previously it was taking me a week and a half to 2 weeks to get a shipment out the door by myself, I have 2 people to help me this week. So my goal is to get this full shipment out the door in 5 days. Should not just be doable, but I could probably get started on the next one before the week is over. My point is, if I work with the existing space I have, if we stay there, we go vertical, and I do what you're saying, I can keep it lean. I can come in, I can put shit on the shelf, I can send the shit right back out the fucking door. If I don't, like, if I screwed up and we didn't go vertical, we just got more space, and I got to sit down, we're not as lean.
You
so
need
it's
to go
costing
vertical.
me more monthly.
You need
You
to
see
go.
what I'm saying?
Well, so you always go vertical because you have a bunch of dead air in a warehouse. Vertical. Always go vertical before you go.
Before you go horizontal.
Yeah, before you go. If you don't have racking in a place and you're like, oh, we need to build a new building because we don't have space. No, you need to come in here and fucking figure out.
The advantage I have right
first.
now is nobody's renting the space to the other side of me.
I'd still go
So
vertical.
sometimes I use that
Now,
to turn around. Or
the difference
flip
is
shit.
the difference is going to be, what are you willing to pay up front? Because racking,
It's just the ROI. So
the ROI is going to pay for itself.
if we expand horizontally, that doubles our monthly cost
Yeah.
indefinitely.
But if you
If
go
we go
vertical, it's a
vertical,
one-time payment. Unless
it
you're
could
doing
be-
a payment.
It
process.
could be expensive on the front end, but that's a one-time cost.
Yeah, you'll easily, your ROI on that will not be long. It's always better to go vertical first. Always better to go vertical first. Once you go vertical and you're like, shit, I need more space, then you look at going horizontal.
No,
Because if you don't
I agree
own
with
that,
you. I'm just now I'm questioning when that's going to take place. Because right now, like right this second, if we
you need to go.
well, part of the issue was early on, like we had just gotten in that space. We had to get dumpsters. The one company wanted like a 3-year contract. The other company didn't.
You went with
You're
Republic
like-
Services, didn't you?
We were like, a 3-year contract? Are you fucking high? So we
That
finally got
was
this
Republic
company.
Services, wasn't it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Fuckers suck.
I don't know who it was.
GFI, go with GFI, or they used to be Waste Management.
We
They are way
already
better.
got dumpsters. The issue with the current company, besides the fact that they just got in there and they were supposed to pick up Friday and they didn't, is that we were supposed to have 8 yards and they didn't have any, so they were going to give us 6 yards. And then on the day they were delivering, they called us up and said they didn't have 6 yards, so they gave us 2 4 yards. Either way, we got dumpsters. Originally, we were running out of space because I was just taking boxes and throwing them. There's like a heap of boxes in the middle of the warehouse. So we've got space now. So if I took in more, I think floor space with what I'm working with and how tight it is, I could probably take in a truckload of stuff and be all right. And we don't receive that much in one.
If you're not receiving that much, you need to go vertical. Period. Even if you were receiving that much, you still need to go fucking vertical.
I think the number one place it would help is like, just based off of what you're saying, right now I have an entire aisle of pallets. Some of it is 2 or 3 pallets deep.
Yeah, but what's above it?
Exactly.
Air.
So if I
fucking air. You are paying rent.
But I can't go vertical until I get a forklift.
From ground to ceiling, what's your clearance?
I want to say
it's got to be at least 20, 30 feet.
I think ground to ceiling is about 20 feet, but ground to clearance is about 12, I want to say. It's not that high, not on our end. On the other end, because it goes down a little bit of a slope, because what they did is they built this warehouse and then they added on.
I'd have to go see it, but I will almost promise you it would be better for you to go add the vertical space and get, yes, it is all going to be an upfront cost that you're going to have to pay, but that ROI is going to be less than 6 months. Whereas if you go horizontal and you just expand into the next space, you're going to have to pay for that. And regardless of how well your business does, you're going to have to pay for it. Well, so that's going to eat into your cost. So let's say you're up now.
I don't think we have any intention of going horizontal.
Then why are we having this conversation?
Well,
go vertical. Done.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
100%.
Problem solved. Problem saying solved.
I agree with you. I think it's just a matter of us figuring out, how frequent we're receiving inventory, how much we can get out, how fast. Because
if you have
2 months into this, and I just finished training a second guy.
If you go, I'm not saying you need to go vertical tomorrow, but when you go vertical, then you can start receiving more. As you start receiving more, you can start shipping more. As you start shipping more, then you can hire more labor and to help you ship more. Then once you're at to capacity there, then you can start saying, okay, now I need to go horizontal. And then in that section, go vertical again. And then you do the same cycle over again. Now, instead of receiving 1 truck a week, you're receiving 10 trucks a week and you're shipping a full truck. So you're no longer doing an LTL, which is fucking expensive to do.
I'd have to look at the
comparatively speaking to just hiring a third party straight shipper where you're putting 22 pallets on there.
We're a partnered carrier. A lot of other industries don't realize the fraction of the costs that we pay because we use partnered carriers. So 6 pallets cost me about $150. Whereas
so you're doing like a kind of, what's it called?
Amazon charges us for the LTL.
Yeah.
So it's still YRC or AAA Cooper or somebody like that. But because they're registered partner carriers with Amazon, they charge Amazon. Amazon pays them. Amazon charges us.
Oh, so you're never going to get out from under Amazon's thumb.
Huh?
You're never going to get out from. So you're going to have to do what Amazon wants you to do.
We don't have to. We don't have to use a partnered carrier. I can select LTL and do my own carrier. No. But I'm not going to get the same rate by doing an LTL. Even if I do FTL, I'd have to look at what their requirements are from LTL to FTL. But
so in FTL, you're going to have to do a full load.
Yeah, but if I do a full truckload, let's just say a full truckload from here to Charlotte, it costs me $1,000. If I send 2 LTLs through Amazon partner carrier, and that costs
but with
$200, I'm sending a full truckload in 2 separate shipments for a fraction of the cost of an actual full truckload at a higher frequency.
So here's the thing. If you're doing an FTL, so first off, the first thing you're going to look at, if you get big enough, this is if you get big enough. If you're doing an FTL 10 times a week,
oh, Jesus,
2 trucks a day. If you're doing two FTLs a day, and you go through a JB Hunt or Warner or whoever, they're going to give you, it's you're buying in bulk essentially. They're going to give you a discount on what that is. Then will you be able to go to an Amazon or to other distributors who can sell your product other than just Amazon and say, hey, you can purchase this from me, but it's going to be a FOB origin instead of an FOB destination. And the difference between FOB origin and FOB destination is when the purchaser takes control of the product. So if it's an FOB origin as the purchaser, once the carrier picks it up from you, they own it. If it's an FOB destination, until it goes to their property, you own it. And that's usually where you get the carrier. Because some companies, unlike, I don't know if Amazon does this, but some companies will have their own freight and have their own national contracts with a 3PL carrier or they're their own logistics company. So they're going to say, hey, look, I'm going to ship directly to me with my own freight line. So I'll just purchase it from your warehouse. Once it's loaded onto my trailer, I don't give a shit. It's mine. And you're like, all right, cool. And then you get even more discounts.
That's how Amazon does it, with the exception of when it arrives, if you didn't package it right and it's super fucked up, then they'll reject it. You have to pay for return ship.
Yeah. It's usually what happens. That's pretty SOP for the board.
In the short term, I mean, fuck, dude, 10 trucks a week. I think that's something to plan for, because we could potentially get there with the right processes, the right number of
you could easily get there within 5 years, in under 5 years, easily. If you can't get there in 5 years, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, but one of the 5-year goals deals with additional sales channels like you were talking about, and that is not, we would become the distribution center. That's
a whole separate division. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you're doing a whole different
thing. Where the
there.
orders go out from our warehouse is, the advantage to capitalizing on Amazon FBA is that you don't have to handle order fulfillment, customer service, chargebacks.
Yeah, if you're a distribution center, you got to take on all that.
But in the short
term, there's less overhead and more money, more of a margin for you to make if you're doing all of that yourself.
Sure, but I mean that's kind of what
there's also more of a cost for it.
Yeah.
So with the increase of profitability and margins and all of that, it's going to increase your cost.
What is okay? So I'm gonna go back to the forklift, because I want to hear. I'm gonna ask you a hard question. What, in your opinion? Because now I'm thinking about going vertical, increasing efficiency. In your opinion, what is the biggest downside to having an electric forklift?
The biggest downside? That's a hard question to answer. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. Because, I mean, I had electric forklifts for me that could do everything. Not like all in one, but I had separate machines. So I had electric reach trucks that could go up 90 feet in the air. Like they had a masthead and they were stand up. Jesus. The forks came up and they would go all the way up, and they would extend out pick the pallet up, bring it back, bring it down. I had pickers so that they would drive around and they'd be on a platform. You could go up and pick whatever you need to pick off, put it on the pallet behind you, bring it down, and it can keep going. You'd be harnessed into the thing. And then I also had counterbalances or sit downs that could go on and off a truck. So, I mean, it depends on what your needs are. As for downside for the biggest downside for electric.
That's what I think I'm interested in, because from the sounds
it depends
of it,
on it. So I've worked mainly with Crown and Raymond in my career, which I think Raymond is like a Toyota brand. Maybe Crown's a Toyota brand. I can't remember. From my experience, the Raymonds that I've used tended to break down a lot more and require a lot more maintenance.
Huh.
The Crown pickers and reach trucks and counterbalances that I had came with maintenance contracts and warranties. So we contract, when we would buy X amount of lifts from Crown, we would negotiate in that purchase how often they're going to come in and PM those machines. And I didn't have as much trouble with those. Even the old ones, we didn't have it. As long as they were on a regular PM schedule, they were fine. And every time I bought a Crown, it came with a new battery. So it almost seemed like I always had a surplus of batteries. So I had charging stations where you could go in and plug in. And then the problem with batteries is if you don't have charging stations, you have to get a machine that can change the battery out. Because those batteries are fucking heavy. It's not like a car battery where it's like this big. They're fucking 1,000 pounds. I mean, they're huge. And so if you're going to have to take it out of the lip, that's where people, I think.
No, I'm familiar because we had a high lift in Durham.
Yeah.
And so it had a battery. It was the size of the whole fucking thing. And that's where the guy was telling me that it was going to cost $7,000 to replace. But I also
the batteries are expensive.
Well, I also didn't go with him for the repair because he came out and he went like this. Oh yeah, you need a new battery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you want to make
the downside is
take a bigger look at that.
The downside is batteries are expensive when you do, and you will have to replace them. From what I remember, our Crown people, everything was all included. So we had the batteries, the charging stations, and the forklifts were all part of the PM schedule. Now, that's what my company negotiated with them on a national level. And this was a 40 or $50 billion company. So they, going to be able to go onto a negotiation table a lot more than with what, say, you could.
Yeah.
The company I worked for that did Raymond, the Raymond lifts, the batteries and the battery chargers were separate from Raymond. So if something went wrong with the battery, my Raymond mechanic who was PMing the machine would come and say, hey, I've PM'd your machine, your problem's with your battery, or you have this problem with your battery. So then I'd have to call a separate vendor, and the vendor would have to come out and fix the battery or replace the battery. Same with the battery charger, that the Raymond people wouldn't look at the battery station. They wouldn't touch it. They wouldn't go fix it. They wouldn't do any of that. That battery vendor would do it.
Yeah.
But when I had Crown would own the battery. They owned the charging station. They did it all. So if I had a problem, it was a one-stop shop. It just depends on how, who you're going with.
What you're saying is brand new and electric one will be cheap.
Even a used one, I think, would be cheaper over time.
Well, used ones are going to be hard to find.
Mm-mm.
Based off of what you said, because you said if anything goes wrong,
a used lift is not going to be hard to find.
A used electric,
no, you can find a used electric one, dude.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but if all you have to do is change out the battery, then why would anyone get rid of their electric?
Well, they're going to go up on hours. I mean, essentially, yeah. And then they have to get refurbished. They're going to be older. But you can call. So I got a new basically a pallet, a straddle jack. You know what a straddle jack is? Where it basically it's got these skis that go out and around a pallet, but that can lift. So it's like a pallet jack.
So that's a pallet stacker.
Yeah, pallet stacker.
Yeah. The guy beside me has those.
Yeah. So I got a used one from Crown for like $2,500. Bought outright. Didn't lease it.
I'd get his, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, and even that came with a maintenance contract.
Yeah.
I've got a Crown guy. I can give you his name and his number. He's in the area.
I'm down for that.
And you can call him and he'll be like, dude, I'll find you what you need.
Yeah.
From Crown. He's like, because they do have used stuff.
Yeah, I'm down for that because I could talk to him and then
it's just what's right for you.
What's the people on Blue Ridge Road? They do mostly larger heavy machinery. It's a Caterpillar.
Is it Caterpillar?
Yeah, but it's got a name.
I don't know.
It's a guy that owns it. My brother got his excavator from them, and then my dad preaches Ritchie Brothers like it's his religion, but they
zero experience.
So Ritchie Brothers is an auction site,
which is also fine.
So they're huge. They're very well known for auction.
You're going to find better propanes because those things are going to be old. Like,
well, the issue that I have with Ritchie Brothers is when I went there looking for an electric pallet jack, they only had 2 options. So it's like the only thing you're going to find on the auction site is what people are offering currently.
If you're buying one, it'd probably be better for you to just do a old ass 90s version of propane. Honestly.
Why?
Just because those are going to be easier to find. They can be refurbished a lot better.
Well, I can tell you out the gate, we're more willing to buy something new that we don't have to put as much in maintenance wise than we are.
You're going to have
something used that we're going to have to fucking fix every.
You're going to just have to do the research and say, this is what is best for our business.
Yeah.
That's simply what it comes down to. Because my experience with me is I'm in climate controlled indoor warehouses. Like I would not take an electric lift at my current company. It's all outdoor. It's exposed to the elements. Would not use a freaking electric lift for anything I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it. All I have is propane and diesel. I've got one diesel.
Huh.
But my lifts are also outside, exposed to the elements 95 to 98% of its life cycle.
Yeah.
And they're driving on gravel. I'm not going to have a freaking electric lift for that.
Yeah.
If I'm in an completely enclosed, climate controlled warehouse, it depends on what I'm doing, what I need, and what my ROI is. And you're going to have to look at that. I mean, I don't know what your finances look like. I don't know what your costing looks like. I don't know what it is exactly. I've never even seen your building.
No. So as far as like you talking about them being exposed to the elements, if I unload a truck, but that's it. Like if I use the outside, because I also have the indoor docks. Like,
so again, I don't know when you describe your warehouse. I don't know what you're going for. Well, my trucks would back up outside. They would not go inside. Back straight up to a dock.
Yeah.
And would be flush up against the dock. And then I would have electric lifts going off and on. And the electric lifts weren't exposed to the elements. To the point that
docks that I talk about,
yeah,
they're outside.
Is there any
dock outside of the building?
Yeah, so that's
once exposed. The truck backs up to it, there's a leveler.
Yeah,
and you get the stuff off the truck, and you're outside. You're exposed to elements, and then in order to get inside, there's a door, right?
Yeah, so that's something to take into consideration. I mean, can a battery power do it? Yeah. Do you want a battery powered if it's fucking hailing outside and raining. Do you want a battery powered? I mean, would that be best? What's best for you? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I mean, but I don't know how long it would be. I don't know how often that would happen.
It would.
I can tell you right now, I unload currently outside 6 trucks a day, no dock, off the side of flatbed trailers, rain or shine. And there is no cover.
And that's your propane and your diesel.
It's my propane and my diesel. Handling lumber, handling all sorts of decking and different things. There is nowhere anywhere a truck backs inside. If a truck backs inside of my current company, it's hand offloaded. There's no lift used.
One of our long-term goals is building.
You are so far away from that. Just saying. But when you're ready, I know a guy who builds warehouses.
Well,
and he'll build you a warehouse.
The guy whose goal this is an architect.
No, I mean he's a developer who builds his own.
Physically builds it.
He physically builds warehouses. Usually they're warehouses he owns and rents out. But I'm sure you could talk to him about building if you give him the plans. He'll contract out.
I don't think we're as far away from that as.
You know how expensive it is to build a new warehouse?
It's not about the money. It's about figuring out the processes and procedures. Because right now we could receive 2, 4, 10 shipments a week. We have the capital for that.
Yeah,
we have the inventory for that. The problem is he wasn't going to send that to me as the only guy going vertical in our business. Going vertical in our business, we get the one guy in and it's like, all right.
Well, it's not about how much you can receive. It's not about your input. It's about your output. Building a warehouse is not a cheap endeavor.
Well, no,
and so in order for it to be profitable, your output has to be significant.
Sure.
Significant.
Yeah.
That's why when I say you're nowhere close to being oh my God, Durango, you are okay.
Well, I'm thinking like 5 to 10 years, but
I would say I don't know anything about your business, but I would venture a guess. I'd bet a year's salary that you're probably 10 years away, 10 to 15.
I don't know what his plan is, but my only point is we can place more orders than we are right now. We can receive more than we are right now. The issue is the output.
Yeah,
the issue is making sure that we've got the processes, the procedures in place.
Yeah, because if you're going to build a warehouse, so you don't just want to build 4 walls and a roof. If you're going to spend that kind of money to buy the land, develop the land, or buy already developed land, and then bring in people to build the warehouse, you might as well go all in and say, all right, I'm dropping $6 million on a 10,000 square foot warehouse. I might as well bump it up to 10 and go ahead and put the racking in there and whatever kind of station, conveyor, whatever setup I need for my business to go ahead and do.
Yeah.
With plans to expand onto that construction as your business grows.
That's part of what we're talking about now. That was part of my argument with the machine we're looking at. It's going to automate a lot of our processes. That's what's going to get us to 8,000 units per day. And that's basically.
What's your profit margin?
I don't know all the numbers for everything. He's a lot more the business side of things.
So you don't know what your GP is or your net? Your GP percentage? No. I mean, that's in order to make that decision, you're going to have to know all of that stuff.
Well, he handles all that. As far
as you
should,
if you're a partner in it, I mean, you also need to understand that side.
Yeah, but I mean, for right now, being 2 months into it, my number one thing is, it's taken me a week and a half to 2 weeks to get a shipment out the door. I now have 2 people to help. I should be able to do it in 5 days. That's my goal. And would have to check the work order, but I don't think this one is as complex as previous ones.
Your goal should be to get, and this is me personally, your ultimate goal eventually, not tomorrow or next month or next year, but 24-hour turn.
Like receive it, send it out the door. So with the machine we're looking at, there's basically a tabletop, and I'm looking at a few different companies. There's a tabletop, and then there are ones that are independent and on wheels. And the price difference in between the 3 to 4 different options, depending on what company we're looking at, is roughly about $20,000. So I'm like, okay, if we get the one that's independent, we're paying $20,000 more. It's not faster. It's not better. It doesn't do a larger size than the tabletop. Just get the tabletop one for now. It's going to do the same and increasing our efficiency.
What does the $20,000 do that the tabletop doesn't? There's got to be something for $20,000 more. It does the tabletop.
The biggest variation is you have a tabletop one, and then you have 3 independent ones, which are on wheels, right? So the tabletop one is slightly slower than the first wheeled one, the independent one. However, the biggest issue with that is the manufacturer tests them dry, which is pushing the button and timing. That's not realistic, because whether you're using a palm trigger or a foot trigger, or you're putting it on a timer, a human being with an actual roll of polyethylene in the machine is not going to be able to produce the same thing as just the manufacturer pushing the button and time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if the tabletop one does 40 per minute and the independent one does 60 per minute, when you add in the human factor to those numbers, you're not talking about a variation big enough to be concerned about. Does that make sense? And then the difference in between number 1, number 2, and number 3 of the independent ones, the ones with the wheels that I could put anywhere in the warehouse, is only the size of the poly bag that they can handle, not the speed. So if this one is the same speed as this one, but it's $40,000 more just because of the size of the poly bag, but we don't need that size, then it doesn't make sense to go that high. So my argument is we start with the tabletop one. It's going to increase our efficiency by 5 times. It's going to allow me to produce the same number of individual items as 5 people without having to hire 5 more people. And when we do get to a point where we're building that warehouse, then we can address those conveyor belts and automations from, getting with a company that does those consultations and saying, okay, this is what our current process looks like. This is what I want it to look like. What type of machines, what type of conveyor belts, what type of expenditures are we looking at? Because that's where that additional, whatever you said, $1 million is going to come into play. As opposed to hiring more people if we're building our own facility. Like I saw the YouTube video of the 6 warehouse facility. I think it's in France. They had 4 motherfuckers working in that warehouse.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Joe.
My name is Ryan.
Please don't forget to click that like button. We can be found on anywhere you get your podcast. And also don't forget to go down below and click the link for Soldier Girl Coffee.
This is the Veteran Talk Show. If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smeltz. Our co-host is Joe Ballack, and guest starring veterans.